should be live. So hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I welcome you. Today's topic is day 4, being, and it's a look within the book, Bringing Spirituality into Business. And we'll be taking a little bit of reading from the chapter, which is chapter 10, I think. So we're really jumping into the book. A few chapters before this, we talked about awareness and your superpower, which was the topic of conversation yesterday. I apologize for not getting into the book, but a lot of what I shared with you yesterday, I told you from the start, awareness was one of my most favorite topics to talk about because it's so big, it's so broad, it affects all of us. And as much as I talk about it as being a skill, it's more than that. And when you become the observer through your awareness, all things start to shift and change for you. So this chapter, this topic today, being, is the B in my ABCs. Awareness is the A. And there's, I say, a 3-point process. It's one skill, one practice, and one process. And this is the practice, bringing all of you to the party. Who are you being? And there's a lot of reflection in this chapter, in the workbook pages for this, in the companion workbook. I invite you to go deeper into a lot of reflection here on this particular topic, because until you get to notice and contemplate who you're being, you don't know what aspects of yourself you'd like to shift or alter or change in any way. So let's jump right in, because this is a really powerful topic. And I did have 2 questions that came in on this one. So I will be checking back and forth to the live YouTube to see if there are any questions coming in on YouTube as well. And if you have any, do me a big favor, put a big capital Q before your questions so it helps me spot them as we notice them. Leave comments. I want to hear, your thoughts on anything that I'm talking about. One, it helps me to address them in the book club, and it'll help me make certain that your topic, your conversations, your concerns, your questions, your issues, your curiosity is something that I know if you have it, others have it too. So like I say, there are no wrong questions, no stupid questions. All questions are perfect and amazing. I start this chapter out by having you reflect and asking you, who are you? Who are you being? Are you present in your life? Is your focus more on doing? I thought I'd silenced my devices, but obviously not. Note to self. All right. Is your focus more on doing and what you need to do, or more on your being? Who are you becoming? Are you fully empowering yourself in all areas of life? These questions call you to reflect on the masks that you wear, the roles that you play, the stories that you tell, the beliefs that you hold, and the version of you that others see. They cause you to observe who you are being. Who you're being is the B to the ABCs, to master you and your results. The human experience is so complex and multidimensional. Bringing spirituality into business will focus on who you're being in relationship to the 4 intelligence systems that we have access to. There was no training or teaching or learning in our homes, our schools, or society that directly taught you how to be the best version of you. Instead, society, schools, and often your own parents strived to teach you to be normal, to be accepted, and to fit in. Nowhere were you taught to be yourself. Nowhere were you taught to be authentically you. Nowhere were you taught to be empowered. Nowhere were you taught to be resourced. Nowhere were you taught to be happy. Nowhere were you taught to be well. Nowhere are you taught to love yourself, to be kind and compassionate with yourself, or to heal the wounded or hurt aspects of yourself. Nowhere in our education system are you taught that happiness, peace, and love come from within. We have become a society that seeks joy, peace, and love outside ourselves. That is, unless you've had conscious and awake parents or caregivers. No school teaches children or adults how to have peace, happiness, and love from within. No school or education teaches self-awareness, reflection, knowing yourself, or understanding what you see, feel, and bring to your awareness. Know how to use what you see, feel, and observe. But you were taught to follow the rules, you were taught to fit in, you were taught to conform, and you were taught to do what you were told, and by doing this, to please others. While I'm certainly not dissing following the rules, I am wanting to raise awareness to who you're being and the many conditionings that may be affecting and influencing who you're being. Where you're out of alignment with your higher self, or where you might be out of integrity. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having those strong moral principles or moral uprightness. A great evolution is underway. Planet Earth is evolving, and all the people on planet Earth are evolving with her. We have pushed so far out of the natural and organic aspects that fuel us that we are out of integrity. We've lost our inner guidance and begun to listen to and follow the beliefs of others without discerning our own truth. We've become intoxicated with this surrendering of power, intelligence, integrity, and authority. We've become like puppets on a string, hypnotized into society's norms. We've become so programmed and controlled that from our current level of consciousness, we can't even see what's going on. We have become the actors on the screen in a story that is not ours. Let me pause here a moment. You know, I did tell you yesterday that you are the sole actor in your life. You are the main actor, actress in the story of your life. You're the role model. You're the main role, the main thing. You are it, all of it. And this really is your life. How you respond and react to what is going on around you, what's happening in your life, what comes your way, is what's most important. Not what's coming at you or what's going on around you, but how you respond or react to it is what's most important. Who you're being, right? Are you being defensive? Are you being argumentative? Are you being discerning? Are you being curious about things? You know, are you here to lean in or resist? Are you here to find faults or to integrate what's going on? So I go on to say that as you mature and you grow in this human experience, you become aware of yourself, the patterns, the cycles, the repetitive stories and programs that seem to play themselves out. And also the consistent support you have when you lean in to the observer. The observer honors and respects all aspects of you. The observer lets you recognize the ego, that chatty, quirky, sometimes critical voice of your personality. The ego wants to be center stage. It knows what you want, and it steers you to the things that will make you happy and away from the things that will cause you upset and pain. The ego can be bold and bossy, loud and obnoxious, or quiet and shy. Both the ego and the observer want what's best for you. They both come in it at a completely different way. Some people on a spiritual path think that their aim is to destroy and demolish the ego. But this is not so. As you take the observer role, you'll slowly and gently begin to notice the quieting of the ego's voice, or at least a weakening of its constant and continuous need for drama. The voice of the ego tells you how to walk, how other people judge you, what you need to do to be loved, and what you need to do not to get hurt. It's often the voice of the inner critic, complainer, and judge and jury. Furthermore, the judging and criticizing that goes on inside you is what you bring to the world. It's what you will inevitably project out onto others, often unconsciously. You don't have to speak the words for another to know how you feel about them. The observer, on the other hand, is unbiased. The observer does not resist what is or judge what is observed. It simply observes through an unfiltered lens without motive or agenda. The ego sounds awful in comparison, doesn't it? It's loud, demanding, and critical. Not to mention, it takes everything personally. Poor me, they don't like me. I'm sad, I'm overweight, I'm depressed, unloved, unworthy. The ego is like the needy new puppy. Cuddle me, feed me, train me, walk me, sleep with me, play with me. It's all about me, me, me. I go on in this chapter to talk about how we've been conditioned. And to me, this is a really big topic because most of us don't take the time to see that we really haven't crafted who we are up until this point. It's been molded and modeled and formed for us. The first way we're conditioned is on our birth, coming into the world. We have a set, a program, a code, an intelligence system that's put in prior to our even birth, right? And that gives us some barriers as to who we are, some gifts, some talents, some strengths, some focuses that allow us to start being us. Every child's different in their unique expression of who they are. Some are curious and they observe before they engage in an act. Others are bold and big and they come in just wanting to really, truly be front and center stage, experiencing it all. Not one is right or wrong. Each one is an expression of where they're at in their own journey of expression. But by our human design, we each have some blueprint, some specific coding that goes on. And I'm not talking genetic DNA that predisposes you to illness, because we know now with epigenetics, neuroplasticity, all of this is changeable. Yes, if your parents died of heart disease, their diet, their lifestyle was predominantly the cause. And if you carry on that same lifestyle that they did, you could be susceptible to the same illnesses, the same diseases. But it isn't a given that just because your father or mother died of a heart disease or cancer that you will as well. Your programming, your lifestyle, your diet, exercise, how you foster caring for this human existence, this body, is what governs. And it takes in mind, emotions, and spiritualness as well. All of these are intelligence systems that we have working within us. So your conditioning goes on to even deeper because we're imprinted by our environment. We are creatures of habit in this human experience. So we pick up from our environment and we habitually repeat, we see it over and over, and we take it as true. One, it's what's going on in our immediate culture, whether that's our family unit, our school, society, our neighborhood. And we do so to fit in with everyone. It's human nature to want to fit in, to be liked, right? Like these are the two components of us that are continually giving us inner feedback, right? The observer is one, when we just are in that state of awareness where we step into that observer role. We can observe things through an unfiltered lens, or we can be letting our ego, which is past experiences and conditioning, speak for us. But that ego always looks outside you to find fulfillment. It thinks that we find our fulfillment outside of us, and we don't at all. So I go on to say, don't get caught up in blaming, as this will send you down a spiral that's difficult to get out of. Blaming is a big problem among humans. Blaming is like giving your power away to another. It's saying you're this way because someone else made you like this, or they did this to you. Blaming is assigning someone or something else as the cause of why you're this way. Once you do this, you begin believing it at a very deep level. The belief then becomes the limitation that holds you back from becoming all that you are. Blaming keeps you from the ownership of it. As long as you don't take ownership, you don't do anything about it. So it's my invitation that you take 100% responsibility, because this is what it looks like to be empowered, to take your power back. You take ownership. Yes, I've been conditioned to get angry, to fly off the handle. That's one of the questions that came up for today. Yes, I've been conditioned to overeat, to find happiness and fulfillment in food. But that doesn't mean you're stuck there forever. It means that's where you've been. This moment, this now moment, we all get to choose anew. We get to choose again what's right for us. With greater awareness, we get to see what we've been avoiding. We get to see what stories we've been telling. I have heard them all, and I've experienced them all and addressed them all, I want to say, because we all share a very similar journey. The people, the situations, the events are different and unique to each one of us, but the theme behind them is pretty much the same, right? We're all seeking love. We're seeking to find our way back home, where peace, joy, and happiness, where that comfort, satisfaction, love, and peace reside freely, unconditionally. And that's our natural state. That's where you are naturally. Find it. And then all you have to do is look for all the blocks you put up to recognize in the moment. And that's the real journey, is to demolish and take down those walls and blocks that you put up to your own joy, to your own happiness. Sometimes it's a story we're told about looking for it outside ourselves. Like, if I could only find the right person to settle down with, I'd be happy. Get happy, and you'll attract the right person. The right person that you want, if you really want happiness in your relationship, that right person won't have to work to make you happy. That's too big a task for anyone to take on. Until we can see it from the other perspective, we haven't been able to advance ourselves. So accepting what is where all your power lies. accepting where you are on the journey without judgment, turning off that ego's voice of trying to criticize, blame, condemn you, and make you feel guilty or shameful for any of this. That's got to stop. So I go on to say that once you can accept what is, you stop fighting. You stop making excuses. You stop resisting. Maybe you've heard the old adage, what you resist persists. It's true. Pause and think about it for a moment. Once you accept what is, you can then ask some really powerful questions. Like, now what? What do I really want? What's next for me? Where you are resisting someone or something is where you're blocked. So ask yourself, where am I resisting something or someone? Remember, no one is making you resist or do anything. We're all conditioned and affected by others. Seeing this, knowing this, herein lies your power. Once you're aware, it's like a victory, a time to celebrate, because now you get to choose. Now you get to take back your power. It's time to be 100% responsible for you. And this means you choose who you're being. You're powerful beyond measure. Let's engage this power. As you reflect on some of your conditioning and the beliefs and stories and values that affect who you're being, it's also important to see all that your conditioning has brought you. Generally, you accept it because it served you in some way at that time. The safety, the security, the protection you felt from your parents and caregivers were one way that conditioning could serve you. As children, we accept all that is before us because we are children. We don't have the capacity to think things through or to have past experiences to discern right and wrong. As an adult, part of your role is to parent yourself or to re-parent yourself. Because until you fully embrace all of you, you won't be able to see, understand, and step into being the beautiful and authentic version of yourself. Knowing yourself requires knowing which parts of you are yours, your beliefs, and which ones come from others. And from both, discerning your own core values. If you haven't heard it yet, know with certainty that you matter. What you bring to the world is of value. You are multidimensional. You perceive the world through your 5 senses, your eyes, ears, skin, nose, and mouth are all receptors. You may think that everything that comes into the brain enters through one of these doors, but most of us take the world in through our senses effortlessly. We don't give much thought or attention to how we do this. Amazingly, your senses have the ability to convert real world information into an electrical data that's processed by the brain and the body. But you also have multiple intelligence systems that all work in harmony to serve you in being the best version of you. What do you think of when you hear intelligence systems? Is it your IQ? Most of us think that we have just one intelligence system or IQ, but I'm going to be addressing body, mind, emotions, and spirit, and the intelligence systems that they bring us in the chapters that follow. For now, just allow yourself to reflect on your awareness of these 4 systems and how much you understand them and utilize them. Your PQ is your physical body intelligence. Within the physical body intelligence, every cell has an intelligence and a program on how to relate and respond to its surroundings, to the blood, to the oxygen, to the bones, to you name it, to the skin. And within this body, there are additional intelligence systems. You have a brain. You have neurons in the brain that fire and wire together to create neural pathways. You have a heart center. And I don't mean the heart pumping part. I mean a literal heart center that's an intelligence system. If you're not familiar with this, I invite you to Google HeartMath, HeartMath, HeartMath Institute. And they've been doing research for over a decade on the heart's intelligence system. And it isn't the physical heart pumping, but it's an intelligence system that knows before the brain, before your physical senses can communicate to the brain what's going on in the outer world. Your heart center senses it and responds accordingly. But we also have a gut intelligence, and these three work together and they work in harmony. You can fall and sprain your ankle and cut your hand, and immediately your body goes to work. Your inner intelligence system and your physical body goes to work to do what it needs to isolate the inflammation, to trap that trauma in the sprained ankle, which causes the swelling, right? But it's your body trapping that inflammation from that sprain, right, into one place. And the cut on your hand, immediately your intelligence system inside you goes to work to coagulate the blood so you don't bleed out. And then it starts to heal. It starts an inner process of healing. You can aid that by resting, by nurturing that wound to encourage healing for the wound. You know, you use an antibiotic, clean it, you cover it, you keep it free of dirt and from reopening. And on your sprained ankle, you might elevate it, you might ice it, you might do things to actually aid your own healing. But the physical body has an intelligence system all on its own, and it sends us signals all the time. These signals look like an ache or pain or discomfort in the body. And so often we ignore them. If we're not ignoring them, we're numbing them. We're numbing them with food, with alcohol, or we're numbing them with ibuprofen or Tylenol because we don't want to feel the pain or discomfort. And we've lost our ability to tune into these intelligence systems, to let them serve us, to take us further in how we need to pay attention to the messages they're sending us. So this physical body is highly in tune and connected to each of the other three intelligence systems I'm going to share with you. The IQ is your mental intelligence. In the human experience, we've been confused to think that our IQ is our education and that it's our schooling and our training and the initials behind our name that we go to college, to further educate ourselves, right? Your mental intelligence is just one tiny aspect of that. Like that you think it is just one tiny aspect of your whole mental intelligence system. Your mental intelligence system is so much more. It's a higher faculty that we all have access to. It includes our imagination. And what is your imagination but not forward thinking? How often do you let your imagination go forward to think through your day before you've ever stepped into it? It's funny, in the Alice Through the Looking Glass, the good witch says to Alice, well, how was your day today? And Alice says, well, I haven't even started into my day yet. It's only breakfast. And the good witch says, well, when I was your age, I'd had 5 thoughts about my day before I ever sat down for breakfast. And I knew exactly what I wanted to create and what I was going to be experiencing and so on and so forth. And we all need to get better in tune with this. I think the mentor that I follow that does a really amazing job of this is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he says before he even starts his day, he sits in meditation to make sure he's geared up for who he needs to be today to do the things he needs to do. And oftentimes we forget that we are guiding our own results. So the next one's EQ, and EQ is your emotional intelligence. We owe a big thank you to Daniel Goleman for his work in emotional intelligence back in the mid-90s when he brought it forth. And at that time, many leaders in business did emotional intelligence training and workshops and education to become more emotionally intelligent. And that was really to tune into this intelligence system and use it to their best behalf. Your emotional intelligence it's big. It's a GPS. It's an inner guidance system to keep you on the path to right thoughts, right decisions, and to letting that energy move through you. When it shows up, doesn't mean it's always your energy, but triggers that happen over and over again. For instance, if every time you talk with a coworker, they trigger something in you that you just don't like, you tend to avoid them. When in all reality, they're a gift, bringing you the awareness to see an unhealed or overly charged memory or trauma that you're holding on to. And if not them to trigger it, it'll be someone else later. You do yourself a favor to tune into this emotional intelligence system and work with it in that resistance. And we'll be looking at working together with all four of these intelligence systems. But the last one I want to get to before I wrap this up is the SQ. This is a big one. And we have a spiritual intelligence system. The easiest way to share it with you is that inner knowing that you have, your intuition, your inner guidance system. Who is it? What is it? You'll need to label that for you. Some call it their higher self. Some call it their soul. Some call it spirit. Some call it God. Your labeling for it will be unique for you. I'm not here to change that or develop that for you. I am here to encourage you to create a relationship with that spiritual intelligence, because the better relationship you have with it, the more in tune you are to hearing the messages it brings forth for you. Those messages look like when it's time to shift, when your thoughts are out of alignment. And I'm going to use higher self at this point. Or when your thoughts are out of alignment with your spiritual intelligence or higher self. So sometimes we're in a thinking loop by habit, by past beliefs we've picked up that aren't really true or accurate for ourselves, or no longer hold truth. They may have been true when we believed them, but we're evolving. The whole planet's evolving. Everyone else is changing. We're all growing and becoming better versions of ourselves day in and day out. And you can't see it till you start focusing on it, right? You might think this world is vicious, mean, and violent right now. And obviously, if you're not working on your own inner growth and all you're doing is reading headlines and watching the news and the media, that is what they focus on, is what brings news. You know, they're not talking about how many people paid it forward in the drive-thru and paid for someone's meal behind them, or how many people in a checkout line picked up the bill for another person, or how many people tipped their waiter or waitress $100 that day, just out of the kindness of the heart. They're not talking about all those things that showed up, synchronicities, opportunities, alignments for us, for a natural growth and journey. The news doesn't share that stuff. They share the shootings, the wrongdoings, the mishaps, the traumas, the accidents on the highways that cause congestion and closed roads. So our spiritual intelligence is always guiding us to the right way to see things, to know things, and we don't always have the whole picture. You might have one side of the story, but there's a lot bigger picture to what you've got in your awareness. than what you currently believe in. There's more that we don't know than what we do know. And when we get that, we really do want to bring all these intelligence systems on board and active for us at all times. But each one of them contributes to who you're being. So I want to get to a couple questions, and I want to pop back over to the YouTube Live and see if there are any questions. And there's not. So if you have a question, there's a few people watching there, and there's a few on Zoom here. So if you have a question, put it in the chat, and I'll come back to it in a minute. But Jeffrey asked a question, and Jeffrey's been part of my winner's circle for a while. He's a C-suite executive with a high-end company, and he's sharing that how do you work on that part of you that's angry, like that just feels the anger? And I love this question because you're not alone. You're not alone. In fact, as we get into the chapter on, or I should say the chapters on the four intelligence systems, there's shadow aspects of these energies, and then there's gift aspects of these energies. So as we begin to expand on these, we get to open up and unpack for ourselves where the root of our anger lies. And oftentimes, anger can be rooted so deeply in a means of just trying to protect ourselves, to feel safe, that we feel safe for being strong and angry. Like it rises something in us that makes us feel more powerful, more potent. Or it could be triggering something in you that triggers you to be angry, to be defensive, to come to your aid, your honor, like the warrior who protects himself. But anger in itself is a very strong emotion. Most executives do their best not to act out of anger. And I'm imagining that this is you, but you're still aware that it exists within you. And it's right to question it, because getting to the root of it is where we all find that healing and bring balance back into ourselves. And the best way I can invite you to do this inner work is to keep peeling back the onion, layer by layer of, what's beneath the anger for you. And it's going to be getting to feelings and the root cause. And then maybe even going back to the first time you felt these similar feelings of anger. Where were you? What was going on? What was the storyline? Chances are you were between the ages of 2 and 6, and something was happening in your reality that caused you to get angry as a protective mechanism. And that's often all the anger is a highly charged emotion that's been stored and never processed all the way through. Once you process it all the way through and you see that you, let's just say, used it as a way to protect yourself, then you can see that you have other ways now, that you don't need to get angry to protect yourself, right? As an adult, you've been through so much more life experience. You've matured, you've got a lot of history and data and, information behind you. No, you don't need to get angry as a protective mechanism. But you might also gain further insight into the actual situation or event that was going on. And in doing so, see that even then you didn't need to get angry. And when we flip to the other side of what anger is, anger keeps us from feeling compassion. It keeps us from being hurt. It keeps us from seeing all sides right? Like we get so stuck up in the anger that we can't really see what another person might have been going through or what they were experiencing that caused the whole situation in the first place. And I'm happy, very happy to help you work through this if you like individually. So that might be a personal call. But I invite you to take it, first of all, just with yourself, like make a date with yourself to just sit with some of this anger and go into feeling it, but do it from the observer role. As we do it from the observer role, we're better apt to detach a bit from the situation so we don't feel it as intensely. So the anger is a bit minimized, giving you the ability to see it at its root. When we're so infused in it that it's part of us, we're not able to see it at its root. We're just feeling it. We're at that impact of it. So that was a great question. And much love to all of those who boldly come forth and ask the right questions, because this is how we grow. This is what the book club is all about. It's about really owning and being vulnerable to all those aspects of ourselves that we've tried to hide or ignore or prevent ourselves from feeling. When we think about it, you know, who are you being? And who do you want to be, right? Like, it's one thing to notice who you're being, but this chapter and doing the inner work is all about who you want to be, right? We know how we got here, and I always try to share some of the science and the data and the history and the philosophy, the psychology that comes along with it, so that you have a better understanding of how you got here. Like most people want to take blame and shame and accusation, and that's not what this is about. This is about seeing it without blame, seeing it through the lens of love and compassion. To now what? Okay, that's been my journey up until now. And you did the best you could. Look at your life and evaluate it. Did you choose to be stubborn and be angry? No. Anger comes from within. It can shove your main personality out of the way and take over. And then you project that anger out onto others. And obviously, anyone who's got anger has done that a few times. Beating yourself up over it does you no good. Does you no good. You didn't choose. You didn't go out there and pick and say, I choose to be an angry asshole all my life and hurt people. Nobody did. And when we truly get that, when we truly do our own inner work, we have more love and compassion for others and what they're going through as well. This is an inner journey, and we're all doing the best we can with what we have in the moment. I'm going to flip back over for just a moment and see if there's any questions that came in. And again, I see powerful and insightful. So that's good. It's getting the message out there. I do have one more question that came in to me prior to, and this one came from Amy. And Amy asks, how to overcome not being so sensitive to what other people say that she can finally stop taking it personal. And this is another really great question. It's only the ego that takes it personally. Only the ego is taking it personally. The observer sees a bigger picture. It's detached from what's going on to a sense, to a degree, and actually has more compassion, understanding, and a bigger picture view of all of it. Amy went on to say that she picks her kids up from her sister-in-law's a couple days a week because her sister-in-law watches her kids instead of them going to after-school care. And she says she feels like her sister-in-law always has a complaint about her. And I said, how much of that complaint, I had a moment to talk with Amy, and I asked her how much of that complaint was her own personal truth and judgment. And it turns out it was all true. So Amy's working on a weight loss plan, and she's not where she wants to be. So she's got a few extra pounds, and she feels like her sister-in-law is always commenting on it. And I said, what if you loved yourself just the way you were? What if it wasn't your sister-in-law? What if this was you not loving and accepting yourself? So sometimes when we take things personal, it's because deep down there's a truth to what was being said or what was being expressed or how we feel about ourselves. And this is where it's true self-love, true compassion, unconditional love for ourselves comes in to show us our own areas that need to be healed within us. If somebody's triggering something in you, first question to ask is it true? Do I believe it's true? And if there's some value of truth behind it, it's truly something for you to heal in you, right? If you think she's commenting on your weight, which I doubt she is, but it's very easy to take things personally and get offended by them. You know, I remember leaving my family's house one Thanksgiving and my grandmother wanting to put extra pumpkin pie in my take-home bag, right? And I was feeling overweight, bloated, and just stretched in my clothes that day. And I felt like my dad and my mom and my brothers were commenting that I really didn't need that. Like, no, she doesn't want it. Like, whether I wanted it or not, they were really saying she doesn't need it. I mean, what I heard was she doesn't need it. Like, she's packed on enough. And we often hear what we want to hear when we're weak in our own stability and stance. And the whole reason for who are you being is to make sure you're strongly grounded in all that you are. I only read you a portion of that chapter. The rest of that chapter really goes deep into making certain that you're deeply rooted and deeply grounded in your own strength, your own confidence, your own courage, your own clarity as to who you are being. And that when you are, no matter what's going on in your outer world, you aren't locked. You aren't taken off of your stance. Your state of being isn't jarred or altered. You aren't affected. You haven't given your power away to others. So it starts with our truth. What is our truth? Do we love ourselves? You know, we're not the extra 5 pounds or extra 15 pounds we carry. That's not us. That's not who we are. But when we get really committed to shifting and changing who we are, what we believe, even those beliefs start to change. A lot of times weight is, we hold on to it as a protective mechanism. And we tell stories around it so that we don't really have to commit to losing the weight. And then we tell stories about not being able to lose the weight. Like, I tried every weight loss plan out there. It isn't about a weight loss plan. It's about unconditional love and respect for all of you. And all 4 of these intelligence systems, when they come on board, will empower you beyond measure. Beyond measure. It'll be effortless. You'll just be paying attention to them subtly in the background, in the spur of the moment. And then rebalancing, shifting, realigning, to letting everything unfold without reacting to those triggers. Those triggers will start to fall away and soften. And we'll work through the book club to really do this work. This is what the book club's all about. It's really allowing you that personal journey deeper and inside. So Amy, your sister-in-law isn't attacking you. She's loving you. I invite you, when you pick up the kids this week, to really know that, to get yourself, sit in your car for 3 minutes before you get out and get grounded, knowing that she loves you and she's supportive of you, and erase all past memories of things that used to come into your awareness to shift and change you to feeling less than. Take back your power. And from this stance, give her compliments. Thank her for her words. Thank her for sharing whatever it was she shared. Thank her for watching your kids and being that one she can count on, really, right? Like, just take it to a different level. and see if you notice different results. Check back one last time to see if there's any more questions. And I thank you for listening. If this has empowered you or impacted you in any way, please do share and share this with anyone that can be motivated or inspired by knowing themselves and who they're being. Tomorrow is day 5. And on day 5, we're going to talk about your other superpower. And I call it curiosity. Awareness is your biggest superpower, but I feel like without curiosity, awareness has nowhere to go. And that curiosity is what really fuels everything. So it's your ability to get curious, to inquire, and your 4 intelligence systems are going to guide you in what's coming up for you. So I see you there. I see you tomorrow. I look forward to this. If you haven't joined the book club, get on board. I only allotted 500 free or $1 admittances to the book club. You'll be paying after that. And this is good through the end of September. So if you join late, the party starts on September 13th at 1 p.m. Central Time. I hope you join me. See you then.